Hey y'all, welcome back to the Woman's Hustle, Thrills and Spills of Entrepreneurship. It's your girl, Coach K. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm super excited to dive into this episode with you. But before I get started, please make sure you have subscribed to the Upgraded Mindsets Media channel. Or if you are listening audio-wise, make sure that you are favoriting the Woman's Hustle on your favorite streaming platform. If you are watching me, then you see I'm not by myself. So I'm going to allow my guest the honor of introducing herself. Hello.
Hi, I'm so excited about this conversation.
Me too. How are you? How are you?
I am wonderful. I am coming from the great state of Virginia.
Woo, woo, woo. VA, VA. Please let the listeners know who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. So my name is Dr. Karen Hills Pruden. I am a leadership strategist. I work with businesses and high performing professionals on how to amplify their value, how to convert their professional equity into entrepreneurship. And so those are the two main paths. I either work with businesses on how to solidify their leadership competencies within their team so that they match up with what their future goals are. And then I also work with those individuals separately who are interested in increasing their where they are, their stance within the organization, whether moving up from supervisor to manager or manager to leader.
I love it. I love it. And I cannot wait to dive into some in-depth chat about that because, a lot of times people feel like that when you're in the corporate world, that sometimes these things may not necessarily go together. But when it comes to leadership, it's very much aligned in a lot of ways. So I'm super excited to dive into that with you. So please share with us a little bit about your backstory and what got you where you are today.
Oh, wow. So my backstory. So I have almost a 30-year career. So there's a lot of back to my story. The
Come
girl
on,
has
leader.
been through
Come
some
on,
stuff.
leader.
I worked my way up from the front line to the C-suite, and I'm still in the C-suite role. I've been here for about 15, 16, going on 16 years. And so there's been a lot that I went through. But what I will share with your community is that I got my footing into leadership by doing something that most people thought was unconventional. So I had lingered in middle management for about 10 years, and I didn't know any female leaders who were in leadership. So there is a difference between management and leadership. And so when I was lingering in management, I desired to be in leadership, but I didn't have a mentor. And so the only thing I knew how to do back then was I found a mentor on LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn at that time was only 5 years old. So it's not the monster that we all know now. So we were still trying to figure it out, trying to figure out the difference between this professional social media and a personal social media. But I saw it as an opportunity to find a mentor, a woman who was African American, such as myself, who was in a leadership position and had been there for about 10 years. And so I shot off a copy of my resume to my top 2 choices and sent just a direct message on LinkedIn saying, hey, I'm looking for a mentor. And my number 1 choice made me wait for about 2 weeks, and she finally got back to me. And when she got back to me, she said that she would be my mentor for $350 an hour. Now
let's just talk about how far ago that was, and I'm gonna touch base on that later.
Now, if I lost $350 now, I would be looking for it. But back then, I definitely wasn't rolling like that. But what do you do when you are looking for someone to share their knowledge and information with you, and you know that they have receipts because they're in the position that you want to be in? And so I negotiated 1 hour a month, $350 a month. And I did sign the contract for 1 year, 1 hour a month, and I did work with her for 1 hour a month. She helped me identify what my unique selling proposition is, and what your USP is what makes you different from people with the like title and the like education. What makes you stand out? Why should they come to you? And for me, it is that I can create metrics when metrics don't exist.
Mm.
And right now, nowadays, being able to put the numbers to it is just priceless. Now that is gold. And so she was like, you need to lead with that. That is what's going to open doors for you. And so under her guidance, I did. And so after working with her for 1 year, I was invited to apply for a senior leadership position, and I have been in senior leadership since then. And so, as one of my backstories is that I hired a mentor. I invested in myself. I trusted. This was someone I didn't have a relationship with. I didn't know, and I have never met her in person. It was a virtual relationship, so you can get knowledge from people virtually. And that gave me a footing into senior leadership, and I've been there almost 16 years now.
That story was so powerful in so many ways because, for one, you invested in yourself. And even though you knew, like, oh, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to invest, but you still made that commitment. And I think that that's super important for us to understand, because the first thing we will say is we can't afford, right? And, in the entrepreneur world, because you dabble in both. So I know you hear it on both sides. I can't afford this, I can't afford that. You have to really sit down and ask yourself, what do you want? And you knew that a mentor was detrimental for you to pivot, right? You knew that in your mind. And I love that 1 hour a month, hey, open that door for you. A lot of times, too, and I want to touch base on this too, because we hear the term high performance a lot, right? We're starting to see it more and hear it more. And I'm not discrediting it at all, because I feel like that I'm beginning to operate more in my high performance era. And I'm unapologetic about that. I'm just saying. But because I know that you see it on both sides, what do you feel like your definition is when it comes to like high performance?
So high performing are those that are outside of the norm. And so the most of us are C students. I'm sure you probably heard some version of this throughout your career. Most of us are in the middle. Yeah. You have the people who are up here, and you have the people who may be a little bit under here, and then the most of the world is right here. And so your high performers are the people who's on a consistent basis, they're just overdoing it. They are extra. The people that you call extra, they are always doing something. They have receipts to show their success. People quote their name when they're talking about stuff. People refer them for positions or refer their business for different things. And so these are the people that people think about when it comes to solving a problem. And so that's twofold when I say that sentence, because one, people need to know what your area expertise are. And then two, people need to know what problem that you solve, and you need to have a track record of receipts.
Straight like that.
So that they can feel comfortable throwing their name attached to your name out there, whether it's for a position or whether it's for hiring your business. And so for high performance people, these are people who don't play in the middle. They are up here, whether it comes with extra money or not, whether they have to put in extra hours or not. These are the people that on a regular basis, they're giving more, they're doing more, and as a result, their results are more.
Come on, straight like that. So before y'all sit up here and call yourself high performance, I want y'all to go back and probably re-listen to that section right there, because you really have to ask yourself, are you doing the extra? Are you going above and beyond? Are you doing what's required to label yourself? And are you being remembered as someone that shows up just like that? So, and when it comes to leadership too, right? I think a lot of times when we call ourselves CEOs and founders, and speaking from the entrepreneurial standpoint, like, we don't feel like that there has to be any form of development. Because we started the business, we automatically just assume that we are doing and have the skills to do that. I disagree, but I kind of want your insight on that as well. And do you agree or disagree when it comes to that? Just because you carry the term CEO, are you CEO minded, if that makes sense?
Okay. So, I agree with you. I will co-sign what you say. I'm a lifetime student, for one, because the market is ever changing. Competition is ever changing. Who's in number one and number two is ever changing. And the people that are in number one and number two in your market are the people who are inventing things that haven't been seen yet. or they are improving things that already exist. And so for a CEO to be competitive and sustain themselves, we have to be looking at how to make our business better, even if we're making money. We have to disrupt maybe our talent, our processes, or our systems, even when we're making money, because that's going to take us to the next level. A lot of times, we call ourselves CEOs, and we are CEOs, but are you a CEO of a business that's not going anywhere?
There you go.
Have you been making the same amount of money for 5 years, but the cost to operate has been increasing? So you want to be a CEO, yes, but you want to be a CEO who is always a lifetime learner. So you're always looking for ways to be efficient and improving your business. You're always requiring the talent, meaning the people that work for you, whether it's one person or 100 people, to build on their skills. Because when they build on their skills, whether it's through reading books, and granted, building on skills is not always another degree. It is just
Say it
building
again.
on it is
Please say
just
it again.
building on your current skills, learning something new that's going to enhance and make better what you have. And so you want to make sure that people are comfortable bringing things to the table, bringing ideas to the table. And as a CEO, you also have to cultivate a relationship and an environment where they can try those things out. It's hard for a CEO to say yes and they don't see the vision, but you got somebody bringing something to you that's saying, this is the next best thing.
Yeah.
This is the next best thing. A lot of the forerunners, the Apple of the world, the Starbucks of the world, they went through that. There was one time I met an investor, one of the original people who was proposed to invest in Starbucks.
Mm-hmm.
He kicks himself every day because they didn't think anybody would pay $5 for a cup of coffee.
Wow.
And now we're paying $7 and
Come on.
$8 for a cup of coffee. And in some instances, depending on all the stuff that you get in it, it might be over $10.
$10. Yeah.
But, again, when your people need to be able to see that vision as a CEO, you need to be able to allow them, if you don't see that vision, to try, provide them the resources, the time, and the money to try. Because suppose they are onto something, then now you are in number one position and everybody else is behind you. But you have to be able to take that risk. So yeah, as a CEO, you have to be a lifetime learner. You have to disrupt your talent and your processes and your systems, even when you're making money.
Ooh, oh my God, Doc. Mm, mm, mm. Y'all heard what she said. I don't even gotta repeat it. Again, this definitely one you better save. I'm telling you. So I want to kind of veer over to a little bit because I know that you are, high performing, and I know that you have been, in the game for so many years. But how do you balance that? How do you balance as far as the demands, from the businesses, but also in the corporate world, but also your life balance, home balance, just making sure that you are staying on top of you?
Oh, that's such a wonderful question. So I don't believe in balance. I believe in reprioritizing.
Okay.
I shift my priorities from time. And it's funny you say that because my husband said to me, it was less than a week ago that, like, I don't have an off button, and it's because I enjoy everything that I do. I'm always working. In other words, I'm always working. Well, I'm always working because I enjoy everything that I do. But
Does that make a difference?
Yep, yeah. And when you enjoy everything you do, it doesn't feel like working, even though, you may be burning the midnight oil, because I know why I'm burning the midnight oil, because right now I am still an entrepreneur and an entrepreneur. There will come a time in my life where I just have one title. Right now I enjoy both lanes. And so as a result of that, I'm working around the clock. Either I'm working for myself or I'm working for someone else. But I enjoy everything that I do. And so I don't feel the pressures of feeling like I'm not balanced. Now, a lot of times when my husband say, what you got going on this day, I know he got something going on in his head. And so I always say, even if I know I have something on that day, I'll say, well, what's up? And then when he tells me what it is, whether he wants to go out to dinner, because eating is part of our love language. We love to eat. So whether it's going out to dinner or something else, then I'll say, okay. And even though I may have had something scheduled on that particular time, I move it out of the way because, again, my husband is my priority as well. And so for me, it's not so much as balancing. I don't think we ever can balance, because balance to me gives the premise that things are evenly on even keel. And no, I just shift priorities. There will come times where my home life is my priority. We go out, we like to go out of town, we like to go out to eat, we like to do stuff. And then there'll come time where my employer, since I'm still employed, is a priority. And sometimes I need to stay there late, even though I might have something to do for my own business. And then there are times where I take off work where my business is my priority. And so I just shift my priorities. And so it may sound like a synonym for balance, but it's not, because it's never 50-50.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's never
I love
50-50.
I love that analogy, and I think that makes sense too because I have used the term balance, but just hearing you speak it from that perspective, it does. I used to be worried about how the outside validation would be if I made shifts and restructure some things. But obviously with my own development and being that lifelong learner, now I don't care. Like if it's something that I need to do, it's just gonna get done, and I'm gonna reprioritize. So I love how you kind of put that together. I want to know one thing though, because I know you are so passionate and I love that you spoke on being purposeful, because that's what you do. You say you might work a lot, but you love what you do. And I really want people to understand the importance of doing that. But how do you stay connected to your why?
Oh, wow. How do I stay connected to my why? I guess it's such a need, because my why is being able to share everything that I have amassed in almost a 30-year career with any woman professional, whether she's interested in entrepreneurship or whether she's working for someone else. Here's everything that I know. I don't want to take it to the grave, so that you can get where you want to go quicker and faster. So that's my goal. And how I do that is I share, and I'm not always getting paid for sharing. I share whenever. I could be in the grocery store. Somebody will say something. If they're talking to me, it's in my area expertise. Girl, I talk them all the way up to the cash register, you know. And I'm not worried about them providing me me providing them an invoice or anything like that. I share information, and as a result, opportunities come to me. And as long as I continue to share, I will continue to influence and impact as long as I continue to share. And so I tell people my answer when you ask me something is always yes first, and then I check my phone, because if it ain't in my phone, I ain't gonna be there. So, I always say yes, and then I'm reaching for my phone to see if I can be there. And I just found as long as I share wherever I go what I know, because we as women, as a gender, we talk.
Yeah.
And as a result of us talking, we're able to get help sometimes more so than our male counterparts, because most of us don't have that pride factor. We'll talk through our problems. We'll stand in the line in TJ Maxx and be just talking about something that happened at work. We might not say the names of the people at work or where we work at, but we just talking in general. And if someone in that line knows something in regards to what you're talking about, we will share it. And so we are able, because most of us as a gender are like that, we are able to receive information, and anybody who's willing to receive information, I'm willing to give information. And so that's how I stay connected to my mission and my vision.
I love it. Oh my God, so powerful. I love it. I love it. Well, of course, since we talked about the thrills and spills, I would love for you to share one of your biggest thrills throughout the 30 plus years that you have been operating in your why.
Oh, wow. I've had a lot of thrills. So I'm the daughter of an educator, and so my mom always wanted me to get my highest degree, get to be a doctor. She wanted me to be a doctor, so I am a doctor. So kudos, mom, I'm a doctor. And so that's one, and I mean, no matter how old you get, you always want to make your mom proud, And then also, starting my first business. So I'm a multiple entrepreneur. I'm a real estate investor. I do a whole lot of things. I have been making money from my talents ever since I was very, very young. When I say very young, like first grade, second grade, I was the candy freeze cup person that was selling out. Your girl has been making money for a long
Period.
time, you know. So I am extremely proud that I have talents that people are willing to pay for. You
Yeah.
know, that I mean, you that's something that you got to kind of keep your ear to the ground to find out. You know, even as a young person, when I was doing, I call it that little commerce because it wasn't e-commerce, but
Yeah.
selling candy and different things. I figured out that people would pay whatever they would pay
Yeah.
for what I bought, and so knowing that your talent is in demand is definitely one of my thrills, that know that I have evolved to a woman as such with a 30-year career, that my talents can still consistently are in demand.
I
And
love
so I think that is thrilling for me because I don't want to ever go out of style.
it. Right. I love it. I love it. I love it. You like, hey, the demand.
That's right. That's right. Whether it's it could be freeze cups and candy apples. It didn't matter.
Oh man, I love it. Well, with the thrills, we also talk about our spills. So just maybe a lesson, something some people with the outdated mindsets, call failures, but we call them as lessons. So any spills that you would like to share?
Yeah, and I call them as opportunities because I try
Yeah,
to spin it positive. And so, one
absolutely.
opportunity that I will share is that you are the pilot of your career.
Mm,
Don't ever sit around and wait for an employer to give you a raise or give you a promotion. If they aren't ready when you think you are ready, then show yourself to the marketplace. Because I had a lesson that happened in my career where I was verbally promised a promotion, and when someone retired, and then the person got cold feet and did not retire, and then my employer was too scared to come back to me and tell me that the person got cold feet. And so I waited around, and constantly I went to work every day. By the time we hit almost the 2-year mark, I went from a job that I love to a job that I did not love because of that. And
yeah.
so I learned, and I eventually left and found the same position externally. What I learned from that is that you are the pilot of your career. I should not have stayed there. Once I realized that things weren't adding up, nobody was talking about her leaving, she was no longer talking about retirement. I should have either been brave enough to ask the question or left earlier, because it did mess with my mental health and my emotional health, because I love that job. I have been working for that job for 13 years, almost 14 years. So I love the job, love the people, and now I'm going to work every day to a job that I didn't like. And so the biggest lesson is that you are the pilot of your business, of your career. Do not hand those rights over to anybody. Always remember that. Figure out how to pivot, figure out how to flip it, but never hand over anybody the authority over your next step in your business or your career.
So powerful. That's so true. Be mindful. I had a client myself that she stayed at the job for 2.5 years later and was so stressed out about it. They were steady trying to give her, assignments to do, but there was no pay coming along with it. But she loved the base of her job so much that
Mm-hmm.
she continued and continued. And we finally had to, let's talk about the exit strategy.
Yep.
And the blessings came because she stayed resilient. She fought and got a job making $6 more an hour,
Yep.
and doing less, but doing more of what she loves. So I love that lesson, and like I love that you even said that. Opportunities, because I always look at a failed attempt at something as an opportunity for me to learn from why it failed, what didn't happen, what may, and how to shift things for the next time, if the opportunity presents itself in a different magnitude. So I absolutely love that. So
Absolutely.
as we
Absolutely.
get ready to close out here, I would love for you to share maybe a productivity hack, time management hack, something that just helps women maybe who are on the journey of entrepreneurship, who may be thinking about starting, because I know this is where a lot of the women they listen here. they want that motivation or something that will help them, step into that realm. What you got for
I got, don't try to do it alone.
them?
You can be an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, but that does not mean that you have to figure out anything alone. And so, touch base with a like-minded person who may be in the similar business that you're in or used to be in the business that you're in. Just know that whatever your journey is, whether you're working for yourself or someone else, it is easier and quicker if you do it in conjunction with the knowledge of someone else.
Absolutely.
Many times we struggle. We struggle because we're trying to figure stuff out in our own head, and I'm just trying to say it nicely.
Nope.
And
Right.
so we need someone that we can talk to unbiased and unfiltered, so that we can tell people how we're really feeling so that they can give us some real, true advice as to what our next move should be. So and it doesn't have to be a whole bunch of people, but you just need that one person. And even if you are an entrepreneur and they're not an entrepreneur, but if they have the competencies to know what you're talking about and you can talk to them in an unfiltered and unbiased way, so they know how passionate you are about whatever it is that you're going through, then that's the person that you want to talk to. Because sometimes we just need to hear ourselves sometimes say things, you know, and we need someone who will allow us to say things so we can hear ourselves, and then they can offer some advice. But sometimes we just need to get it out, and sometimes people are so quick on a draw, they interrupt you before you can even get it out, and so you don't even hear yourself say what it is that you need to hear yourself say out loud. Because I've said some things out loud and it's like, okay, Karen, that was ridiculous, you know. And if you said it out loud, that was ridiculous. And even with my spiel that I shared with you, the reason why I'm so reflective now is because once I was out of this situation, I was like, how dare you go to work every day and not open your mouth? You're not somebody 20 something years old. You went to work every day with those people and you were not happy, and you didn't start the conversation. Okay, they didn't start the conversation, but
Right.
you didn't start the conversation either. And
That
so taking
accountability.
responsibility for the
Yeah.
role that we play in situations sometimes is helpful as well. But yeah, don't walk your walk. Whatever your walk is, don't walk it alone.
Straight like that. We are in the age now where support is mandatory. And it's
Yes.
the right support. You can't just say you got a group of people around you, and if they're not supporting you, if you still feel stuck, frustrated, don't have the clarity that you need to move forward, then that's not the support. That's not support. And I
Yep.
really want us to start identifying and making changes to make that happen, because it's necessary. My quote, y'all, the journey is necessary, and it is. So make sure you know that. Doc, please let the listeners know where they can find you at in these social media, internet streets.
Yeah, so I play on LinkedIn. So if you happen to be on LinkedIn, that's my playground. I also have a website that's under my name, drkarenhillspruden.com. But you can Google me. I'm Google worthy. I've been around for a while to find
Oh,
out what
she
I'm up
is,
to.
y'all. Let me tell you, she is just that, okay? She is definitely Google worthy, baby. But her links will be in the notes, y'all. So I won't make it hard for y'all. But she
Absolutely. But I
definitely
do
Google
have a
worthy.
free gift for your listeners as well, and I'll provide you the link. And so I'm all for total compensation this year. And so I have, for those who work for someone else, 20 other items that you can ask for other than salary to
Ooh,
increase your total compensation. And
I'm
so some
excited.
of them, depending on where you are in your career, you hadn't even thought about, maybe an extra 2 weeks of vacation or different things like that. But there are ways that we can enhance our benefits. And you can do that whether you're applying for a new position or whether you're going in and they're talking about your annual review and you want to talk about how wonderful you are, and you can ask for a few extra things when you go in there as well. And so I'll provide the link to those 20 items that one can ask for other than salary for you to put in the podcast notes.
I love it. And I will make sure that that is there because I know some of you ladies are still in this corporate world. And there's nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with still being in the corporate world, doing what it is that you love and still wanting to pursue your entrepreneurial journey. So I always tell y'all that do not ever think that it's not okay because it is totally okay. So I'm going to make sure that y'all have that information as well. It has been so informative, but so dope. I already knew the vibe was just gonna be everything today. I knew that already. And I'm just glad that the listeners get a feel of that because I really do appreciate you just sharing your expert insight, sharing your resources, and just being unapologetically you because it definitely shows you definitely shine with that. So I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me. This has been fun.
Absolutely. All right, y'all. Well, we are out of here. Make sure, again, you have subscribed to the channel. If you are interested in being a guest on The Woman's Hustle, the podcast notes will also have the inquiry link. Schedule time to chat with me to hear more about what you do, and if you are a fit for the show. If you are someone who is struggling and unsure of what your life purpose wants to be, then the link to schedule a complimentary chat with me will also be in the podcast notes. Listen, y'all, we are in the season of elevating in our higher selves and being unapologetic at what it is we want to do, whatever that may be. So make sure, again, you subscribed, favorited the podcast, and stay empowered, y'all. We'll holla back.